button there, ref. That's he got the ball. Good morning, Tottenham fans, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boy Dave. Hopefully you're all feeling absolutely fantastic off a much-needed win against AZ Alkmaar midweek. But that win puts Tottenham in the quarterfinals of the Europa League, which keeps our season alive till April at least. And now we have a rare opportunity to be able to build off the back of such a positive result as we travel to Craven Cottage to take on Fulham today, which, if we can do, hopefully it kicks off the start of a winning streak, gives us confidence that we can build off the back of coming out the back of the international break and have a really good push between now and the end of the season. Now, coming into this game, Postecoglou has said he will make changes, which I actually agree with. Off the back of European games this season, I think we've only won twice. We've had a lot of difficulties, so I think freshening it up will hopefully give us a renewed energy heading into this game. But it does make it a lot more difficult to predict. But I'm never usually too far wrong. So let's get straight into it. The lineup that I think Postecoglou will go with to take all 3 points. In between the sticks, Vicario will keep his place here. Didn't really have too much to do in the first half Thursday night, but was called into action a couple of times in the second half and came up trumps when needed. Now, in the last 2 games against Bournemouth and AZ Alkmaar, he has nearly been caught in possession twice, and that is something that he's going to need to tidy up, or else he will be caught out eventually. It's like waving a red flag to a bull. You do it enough times, eventually you are going to pay the price. However, Vicario's leadership for me was really evident on Thursday night, especially in the last 10 minutes of that game. Coming out, collecting crosses a couple of times to alleviate the pressure on the back line, but also at times when people are just setting up to go through the same patterns, the same routines, looking to play out from the back, Vicario's the only one with a calm head in that moment to tell the team to push up. We're going long. We don't need to take that risk. That in-game management is something that we have missed for large parts of this season, and it's good to start seeing a player finally stepping up and taking that responsibility on the pitch, which is also what Postecoglou wants his players to do. He said that many a times. Moving into fullback, and I do think there will be a change here. I think Destiny Udogie will come in at left back, with Jed Spence coming in at right back. I think Pedro Porro, with his call up to the Spain national squad, I do think Postecoglou will give him a little bit of rest so that he is fresh and gives him a chance of showing what he can do for Spain, because he has played the most minutes in the Tottenham squad this season. Now, with Udogie, he's also been called up to the Italy squad. Absolutely delighted for him, and it's just about finding his feet and getting back to his very, very best. Defensively, he's absolutely solid, but he does have a challenge in trying to replicate what Jed Spence does at left back going forward if he wants to hold on to his position. At right back for Jed Spence, he was absolutely brilliant the other night. I've said it before about that link up down that left-hand side with him, Maddison and Son. And I think it's absolutely disgraceful that he's been left out of that England squad, by the way. You see some of the players in there that have been called in, the likes of Jordan Henderson, Kyle Walker, players like that. You need to move on from them and go with the new age. Jed Spence has been Tottenham's man of the match nearly every game since he stepped into the side. He's been the most informed fullback in the Premier League in terms of England. I think Thomas Tuchel has missed a trick here. Now, the big question is how Jed Spence responds. Does it affect his confidence, or does he go, do you know what, I've been here before, Ange made it tough for me to get into the Tottenham squad, I've had it tough my whole career to get here, it's just another challenge in the road for me, another hurdle for me to overcome. And I do think he has that sort of approach. I think he's got a really good mindset, and I think he's going to prove many people wrong. And I think this is something that Postecoglou should play on right before the international break. Go out there, Jed, and prove why they've made a mistake not picking you. And then moving into centre-back, Romero will retain his place here. Looked a lot better Thursday night than what he did against Bournemouth. Looked very rusty, but with more minutes under his belt against AZ Alkmaar, he looked much more better. And I absolutely loved his crunching tackles and standing over the likes of Troy Parrott, taking out the likes of Poku. That tenacity, that aggressiveness, and you know, that bully-like nature is something we have missed across the back line with the likes of your Radu Dragusin, Archie Gray's fielding exceptionally well. That's nothing against them, but we have missed aggressiveness. And once he done that to Troy Parrott, he took him out of the game. You look at the first game with Archie Gray and Danzo there, look at the trouble Troy Parrott caused us. Once Romero clattered him and went over and stood over him, it literally took Troy Parrott out of the game. And I would argue, you see the 2 images, one of Romero standing over Troy Parrott, nice and aggressive, and then you see the other one of Son hugging Troy Parrott. I would argue one looks like a captain, one doesn't. Now, to fill in at left-sided centre-back, I know many people would like to see Mickey van der Ven. We've seen what he brings to us in possession. He's very good at terms of playing out from the back. He can also get on the ball and run with that ball, which creates havoc for the opposition. However, he was taken off after 60 minutes because he was more than likely in the red zone. That seems to be in modern day games where you can't play a player beyond that. You can't push them to their limits. But also, I think it's also good to try and protect them in terms of that hamstring. It is going to be a reoccurring problem. Right now, he is seeing a specialist, and they are trying to tell him that basically if he wants longevity, he's going to have to change his running style, which I think is absolutely insane, that a change in running style can help you with your hamstrings and stuff like that. And I do think Tottenham are going to take more of a cautious approach and make sure he is available for the Europa League games. And with how physical Fulham are usually against us in a lot of the games we've played against them with Ange Postecoglou, I'm not sure I would take the risk, which means I think Ben Davies will step in here. Now, moving into midfield, I think there's a couple of interesting decisions to be made here. And we are going to start with CDM. Now, initially, I thought Bentancur would walk straight back into CDM, but Bergvall did come off the other night with cramp and has played a lot of football lately. And I just wonder, will he be rested and come off the bench, which then opens it up for young Archie Gray to come in at CDM and Rodrigo Bentancur to be pushed into the number 8. Now, with Archie Gray, a lot of fans have wanted to see Archie Gray come into that CDM role to see what he can produce in there. And I think, given the fact that Sarr is on Ramadan, and the reason why, if people don't know, the reason why that's going to affect them is you see a lot of modern day athletes across all sports investing into private chefs, investing into their meals because they do see it as the fuel that leads to their performances. And if you are fasting during Ramadan, I think we've seen the effects of that the other night with Sarr's performance and the energy levels that we could sort of see on display against AZ Alkmaar. So I think on that basis, because he didn't really have too much of an impact, I think he also drops to the bench, which then leaves it open for Bentancur to come into that number 8. Now, in one of the recent games, I'm not sure whether it was against Bournemouth or not, but he did step into that number 8 role and played further forward with Basuma stepping into that number 6 role. And I just wonder, could we now get into a situation where we can push Bentancur further forward, that, you know, the likes of Archie Gray is more than good enough, adequate enough to be able to fill in, take that responsibility? Because I would argue, underneath Antonio Conte, Bentancur was our best midfielder in terms of getting forward. He produced goals, produced assists, and he was earning rave reviews before his injuries and his suspensions. And that's where we got the best out of him, allowing him to get forward and affect the play. And I just wonder, could Postecoglou look at this in this Fulham game as an option, maybe pushing forward? Because I'd also say longer term, I also think Bergvall is more of a number 6 than he is a number 8. So, interesting one. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section below. With James Maddison also complete in this midfield. Now, James Maddison, to be honest, I'm not surprised he missed out on the England squad. I think when you look at the players around him, and it's one thing I've always tried to highlight, the likes of your Jude Bellinghams, your Morgan Rogers, Cole Palmers, Curtis Jones, Phil Fodens, even Eberiche Eze, at their respective clubs, a lot of the ball goes through them. They're decisive week in, week out. They affect games week in, week out. With Maddison, it's been very few and far in between. And that's the one thing he literally needs to correct if he wants to get back into that England side, is producing that week in, week out, game in, game out. He was absolutely brilliant the other night, by the way. 90-something odd % passing accuracy and made really smart decisions on the ball. Of course, getting his goal as well. And again, I think him not being included will hurt him. I think deep down he knows exactly what I'm saying is why he hasn't been included, because other players that he's competing with to get in there are on it more over the season than what he is. So I think James Maddison will come out here with a point to prove, and hopefully he does, because I do think he can be the decisive player on the day. And again, prove Thomas Tuchel, give him something food to thought heading into the international break, because if he steps up with a good performance, couple of assists, maybe a goal here, if the players don't perform on the international duty that have been selected ahead of him, all of a sudden it puts him in that next squad. So I would argue, hopefully James Maddison comes out with a good response, like I'm expecting Jed Spence to do. Now, we're going to move into the forward line. Now, I'm trying to work out whether Postecoglou is going to make a change across this forward line or not. I think if he wanted to, one change he could make is take out Son, probably bring in Brennan Johnson, move Udabur over to the left, and give Son a rest. However, for me, I think he should go with the exact same front three that started the other night. Because for me, I think it's about putting out there now consistently, letting them find out their partnerships, the little link-up plays, patterns of play between themselves, and get used to playing each other. Because I think that's what's been lacking at large parts of this season, is that going forward, we have looked very lacklustre, looked void of creativity, etc., and barely looked like scoring. Whereas the other night, I think having someone like Wilson Odubur, who offers you something completely different to Brennan Johnson. Not only did he demonstrate that he also has the ability to come in at the right place, at the right time, keep on side, and score goals. But look how many times he picked up the ball, ran at players, took players out of the game, looked to be direct. And by doing that, you create space for other people around you. You create your opportunities. And I think he deserves to retain his place here off the back of his 2 goals and his overall performance. And I think he's laid the market down to Brennan Johnson and say, unless you can beat 5 players like I can with a mazy run, you're going to enjoy your time on the bench. So I think competition is good. Also, out of possession, I think Odubur works really, really hard as well. He gets on the press, gets back, helps the fullback. And notice, Pedro Porro was nowhere near as exposed as he is when Brennan Johnson plays there. Also, with Son over the left-hand side, really good performance, heavily involved in all 3 goals that night. Shame he didn't get a goal for his own confidence moving forward. But what I will say is, you keep doing the right things, you keep contributing like that, eventually your goal is going to come. But he was absolutely brilliant the other night. I'm not going to get carried away and say it's the Son of old. I still think he's got a long way to go and get back to that level. I'd also arguing how much is the captaincy affecting Son's performances, because when you look at Mo Salah, they're the same age. But all Mo Salah has to think about is scoring goals and assisting goals and what he can do on the weekend. Son has all the captaincy, all the responsibilities and the duties that come with that. So I just wonder, is that maybe affecting his on-field performances? And with Dom Solanke, I mean, look, absolutely brilliant the other night. One thing I pointed out when it comes to Matisse Tell is he's very lazy on the press. He's not that committed to it. He almost done it half-heartedly, which meant the opposition could get on the ball and just play through us. When that was happening and he was up front, a lot of the questions started coming up around the midfield in terms of how open they are. But we seen with Dom Solanke the other night, when you are committed to that press, you don't give them the opportunity to play through you. And our midfield then weren't exposed as much, because what he done is he put them on the press, made them go long, put it out for a throw and kick it straight back to us. We recycled it and went straight back at them. So when we're signing players now in the forward line for Tottenham, obviously, first and foremost, how good are they in possession? But we also have to look at what they contribute out of possession, because with the modern day football, the way it's going, people see his attack as the best form of defence. No longer like the old days are they sitting everybody in front of the box and allowing you to come up all the way up to the other end of the box unchallenged and look to defend there. They are looking to defend from the front first, turn the ball over, keep them penned in their half. So when we're signing players in the forward line, they have to work hard. And I think if Tell is to work out at Tottenham, that's one thing he has to demonstrate. But in terms of fluidity and something to build off, I think if Postecoglou wants to show Spurs fans that he is the right guy, that Ange ball can work, he has to pick the same front 3, why they're confident, and build on that. So guys, that's my predicted lineup for the big game today. Please give me yours in the comment section below. Let me know if there's anything you agree or disagree with. Let me know my combination midfield. Do you think it's one that could work? And guys, I'll see you back here for the pre-match build-up at 10:30. As always, come on, you Spurs.